What method is right for you? How do you find a practitioner once you've chosen to explore an alternative therapy? Each week, Deidre will explore a different modality with practitioners who will explain their modality and the benefits they and their clients have received through their sessions. She and her guests may also offer live readings during the show. Now, your host of the Self-Care Show, Deidre Sanford.
Well, good morning, Parafam. Happy Wednesday. And 2023 is well underway, finally. Holy cow. We were talking last week about it's okay to not have an exact direction or a whole slew of intentions or goals set for 2023 because they'll show up when they're supposed to and not a minute sooner. And I fell into that trap last week for almost 24 full hours of, I don't have a goal. I don't have my intention set. I'm behind the 8 ball. And the minute I decided that that was okay, and maybe that's how my year was supposed to start, is when things changed. Good morning, Michelle. Thanks for joining us today. Everybody else, Michelle's already set the bar for us. Jump in, say hello. I'm sure we've got some new folks joining us this morning. Our guest today is Dr. Kimberly McGeorge. I'll bring her in just a couple of minutes, but we've got some amazing things to discuss today. I'm super excited. We've talked on the show about all kinds of alternative healing modalities, emotion code, pranic healing, root cause therapy. And we've also talked about how we're not here to bash Western medicine. So we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. We all have our own experiences and reasons for forming our opinions or shifting away from mainstream, and that's okay. It's also okay for those who haven't chosen to investigate or jump into alternative things. Everyone has their own path, their own ideas, and their own things that they need to do. And it's awesome. We honor all of that at the Self-Care Show. We've promised this will be a safe place where everyone can share stories and be vulnerable and be treated and met with mutual respect. And that's kind of a little bit about what's going on in 2023, isn't it? Things are changing. Good morning, Facebook user. Thank you. Don't forget to grant those StreamYard permissions so we know who we're talking to. Things are changing so much more quickly here in 2023. Stuff is amping up. New folks are sticking their toes into many different waters. And it's so fun to watch eyes, minds, and hearts open and join us all on the journey. I think Dr. Kimberly McGeorge straddles a lot of lines and does so beautifully as she juggles all of her multiple responsibilities, interests, and passions. And I feel as though she is an amazing fit, not just for the Self-Care Show, but also for WLTK-DB, where we all gather multiple times a week for many different reasons. And it's one of the things I love about this platform. Dr. Kimberly is a naturopath. She's an energy healer, a remote viewer, a paranormal expert, and a consciousness teacher. And I can't wait to learn more about so many of these different aspects with her today. She's worked with some of the world's most talented healers. And for the past 25 years, she's worked on thousands of people around the world. She was born with the ability to remote view, which is something so many people work so hard to understand and to work with and do well. She has also worked with auras, and she's highly intuitive. She fits right in, right? She checks all of the boxes. Hey, Jess, thanks for giving us your name. I know it does that to me too when I pop into other people's shows. I love it. When she was in college, she actually helped with the police department on multiple occasions. And she has a natural affinity with herbs, worked as an herbalist, and went on to create and distribute her own line of herbal organic products. During the time, she also her practice expanded to multiple clinics throughout Columbus. She's driven by her inner knowing that her healing work could be made much quicker, more affordable, and amplified exponentially by using technology. And that's something we're going to talk about a little bit today as well. She's consulted with an esteemed neurosurgeon and realized that healing frequencies and naturopathy can be applied to all areas of her clients' lives. Her latest groundbreaking program, Frequency Master, teaches how to master frequencies in your own life and also trains other healers to use her own unique and successful methods. I love that she has spreading her work. Let's welcome Dr. Kimberly this morning. Bring her on in, Mike. Hey, it's so nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
It's amazing to see how all of these different facets of all of the things you dip your toes into all come together to improve lives and open minds as well. I've seen some of your paranormal conversations on other stream venues, stream platforms. There we go. And I'm super excited to meet you because you're doing such interesting and amazing work.
You're so sweet. Oh, you know what I was thinking when you were reading my bio? I'm always so humbled and in gratitude. I'm like, who is she talking about? That woman sounds really cool. Like, I want to get to know her. Like, you forget, because you've been in the work a while, like you forget all the stuff you've done and all the pathways that have, lead you to the current moment. And I'm just so humbled. And it just brings me so much joy, that I've been able to do all of that.
Isn't it amazing when we have an opportunity or create for ourselves opportunities to just step on different paths and bring so many different things together? It's kind of outstanding. I think Jess, who keeps popping in. She's like, hi, Kimberly, it's Jess.
Oh, wow. Hi. Thank you for being here.
Isn't it great? I love that you're bringing new folks to this platform itself. I don't know if you looked into WLTK-DB before you popped in.
Just a little bit, but I'm going to do some more.
Mike Hatcher, who's producing for us this morning, does a bunch of work with Paraflix. Okay. And there are a lot of paranormal teams, experts, professionals right here who call WLTK-DB their home. It's really awesome. So let's talk a little bit about initially with naturopathy and tell us more about that as a broader and more specific subject for your practice.
Yeah. So, I was a pretty standard, I would say semi-standard naturopath. I really picked up applied kinesiology and I was taught by a chiropractor, a female chiropractor on a pretty high level applied kinesiology. And I'm so thankful for the mentors in my life. That takes time, to step out of your practice away from your family to invest in others. And so I try to do that too. But she taught me applied kinesiology. So I did use that. No technology, other than the technology that we are, because of course we're the all. So we're technology too, you guys. But, so I kind of picked up on that. But if you guys have ever used applied, kinesiology, you're limited. You're limited in time with your clients to what you can look into. Thankfully I'm intuitive. I practice as a medical intuitive, and the way I practice medical intuition was I would merge with the person and crawl around their body, and that takes time. And I hate to tell you guys, it's kind of exhausting to crawl around people's veins and look at all this gross stuff from the inside out. So, I was kind of using a combination of my, you could call them paranormal abilities as well as like more scientific abilities. But here's the thing. When people came to me and they were in stage 1 cancer, or they were already a diabetic, or they already had arthritis, or they've been depressed for 30 years, they're coming to me usually, and I think this is generally the case, because in the Western world, not just Western medicine, but the Western world, we're not taught really a lot about, we kind of are, but we kind of aren't about preventative medicine. We really aren't. And it's narrow. It's like diet and exercise. It's not self-nurture and radical self-forgiveness. We ignore the spiritual part, or it seems like we ignore one of the parts. We're not holistic. And so these people are coming to me in crisis, and sometimes it's mental crisis. I remember I had a client bring her daughter, and she's like, I have to bring my daughter. And I'm like, you can't bring your daughter. It's 11 p.m. at night. Like, I have a family. I'm like, no. And she's like, I have to. She goes, otherwise I'm just going to take her to the mental hospital. I'm like, oh, don't be like that. So of course I'm like, okay, you can bring her over. And at this time I was using technology, but so she brought her over at 11 p.m. at night, and to watch a girl in crisis that's catatonic come alive. I don't care what time of day it is. I'll sign up for that every day, all day long, because just, and I hate that they're coming in crisis, but yet we have answers in natural and alternative medicine for people, even in crisis. So what I was seeing was, people in crisis, and it wasn't always that dramatic. You can't always turn around somebody even in an hour. And I got a reputation, though, of solving unsolvable medical mysteries, which is really weird. And that's a whole nother story. But my frustration, there's no failure in preventative medicine, in my opinion. There's no failure in herbs and teaching people how to eat and, balancing emotions. But there is a failure in cost. So when you are recommending $500 to $1,000 worth of supplements,
right?
I'm going to tell you, you guys, there was a time where I used to crawl through couch cushions for gas money. I couldn't have coughed up enough money for vitamin C. And I'm talking the cheap kind at Walmart. So that's a real problem. And guess what? I didn't take insurance.
Well, and I think that's a cross failure too. I mean, so many of, and I know this has been a big news topic lately. I don't want to spend too much time diving into that one, but so many of our prescriptions when we're working with Western medicine are cost prohibitive. We cannot access, for one reason or another, that which is so curative, supportive. And yes, supplements do fall into that area. And again, from time to time, depends on where you are in your stage of dis-ease.
True. And I've been in, as you mentioned, thanks for that, in naturopathic, I'm just teasing you, naturopathic medicine for 25, 30 years. And I'm going to tell you guys, like, with the technology, I'm still testing regular deficits because we have these genetic weaknesses. Right. And I have drawers. I have 2 drawers, and they're like this deep. And I'm not exaggerating. 300 bottles. Uh-huh. Now, do I take 300 bottles a day? No. Due to technology, I don't have to. But thankfully, I have the money to invest to have that on my shelf. And it's funny because, I brought my children up in this too. And you walk in my oldest daughter's house, it not only looks like a vitamin store. You know how vitamin stores smell? That really like earthy, herby. Like her whole house smells like a vitamin store because she's got shelves and shelves because she was kind of brought up that way, you guys, in like a clinical setting. But, my heart was just breaking because I had the answer. I knew what they needed. So let's say they could afford. So let's say a wealthy person came to me and their body told me everything they needed. And let's say they bought $2,000 worth of supplements. Here's where it gets even rougher. So you have the money, but do you have the compliance? Do you have the discipline? Do you have the motivation? Because again, I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to be honest. I've been doing this for years. I know how much these supplements mean to me. I know how they make a difference overnight. I know how they make a difference the next day. And there's times I say, nope, I'm not going to run myself. I'm not going to scan myself, and I'm not taking anything. I'm just going to bed. And that's me, you guys. So there's failure in compliance,
Self-care can be exhausting. And then you could be at the other end of the spectrum like me and start feeling better. So I don't think to take my supplements because I don't feel as though I need them. I'll jump on board. I'm open. And I have a naturopath with whom I work, and he'll help me find the more affordable end while still finding something that works. And what we sometimes don't understand, like even Western medicine docs are now prescribing CoQ10, but they're not talking about, but you need the rice bran. They're not talking about other things that we need to take along with that supplement to make our bodies actually use it. So there are times when Western medicine, and I'll go ahead and just keep it under alternative, I guess. Sure. They cross, but sometimes Western fails to pick up the finer nuances of the supplements that they're suggesting be used. I have a family member in the middle of that one right now. My stepmom is all holistic, has been for years, has an innovative wellness center. And so she's a very good gatekeeper and guardian when he's undergoing Western care in a hospital situation. So that's where we see those things come glaring through, is the two can bump up against each other, but they're not as integrated as they could be.
one of the things that I have not, when I scan, tons of people every day and every week, that we find that matches what you're talking about with the CoQ10 is the D3K2, D3 calcium K2 pairing. Everyone's coming up deficient for D3. And so a lot of the doctors will prescribe D3. Have fun with that. You might as well just throw that out the window on your way home, because you're not going to absorb it. So there's a lack of education. And a lot of people don't know that I began in the medical community in Columbus. I worked for the heart transplant team. I worked for radiology. I've been steeped in medicine. And so, I've seen it from both ends. I've seen the brilliant, amazing, life-saving successes. And I've seen, the failures. And we fail too. I'm telling you, I have failed too. Have I lost patients? Have I taken cases I should never have taken? Yes, I failed too. And again, if you guys have ever watched Grey's Anatomy, I think it's a bunch of garbage, but it's also a bunch of truth, because they show you how they learn. And we do this in all areas of our life, of course, unfortunately, and fortunately, if you take the lesson, we learn by failing. And so I'm not holding myself above any practitioner, and I'm still learning every single day. I get so much information by having this exposure, and we start to see themes. And it's just even so useful to see these general themes, like the lack of D3K2 that comes up every week. CoQ10, actually, a lot of people test for that too.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. They can merge, they can play in the same field, but it also depends on the individual physician. And they even have to be careful what they're speaking about with their patients, because it's not just what their thoughts are, it's the guidance and the policies of the medical group to which they belong. We've created so many traps on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, everybody's like, how have you lasted so long in the alternative medicine field, as crazy as you are? And I'm like, I've been investigated, by the American Medical Association. How can you not, when you're in the field this long, and especially when you're running live in-person clinics? But you learn, I hate to say how to play the game. They play games within their world too, but you do learn how to play kind of the game in the alternative world. And what's so brilliant about technology is we can kind of slip in under, that gives us a little more room to play.
Well, and you brought up the T word, which is perfect, because I did want to pop over into that area. You're doing work with energy fields, technology. How do those things come together? Tell us a little bit more about that technology.
Well, again, my frustration, all the things I first shared with you, my frustration in my own field. I grew up in a really strict home. So, the word homeopathy was considered witchcraft. The word energy was considered witchcraft. It's satanic, and so it's funny because, I'm not religious now, but at the time I still was. And there's a verse in the Bible that says, Christ holds all things together. Well, what does he hold it together with? His hands? No, energy. So I had this revelation, even when I was under, still a Christian, that frequency was the base of everything. And it actually came in through the Bible, which is interesting. But so I went, someone told me about this woman. And she had no experience, no degrees, no education. And she was way back in the hills of Ohio. And I took a 2-hour drive, and she put me on this machine, which a lot of you have been on, these biofeedback machines where you hold the copper thing at your chiropractor. And I was blown away, because the accuracy and then the life-changing, things of doing with that machine, which I actually was me, but I didn't quite understand it all at the time. And the first time she put me on this machine, again, because I'm intuitive, I heard this, I think it was my higher self said, you own 2 of these machines, girlfriend, and you're going to test and affect thousands of people around the world with this technology. And this was my first exposure. And so eventually I did own multiple machines and, use them. But then what's even more brilliant is the non-locality of time and space. So all time is now and all space is now, and we're eternal beings. So we access all our future and all our past in the present moment. And why is that exciting? Because we don't have to be in person. There is no time and space. I'm with you right where you are. You're with me right where I am. We're one. And I began testing that. I began test. First, I started off doing surrogate testing on the machine. If you guys don't know what that means somebody in Germany would call up and say, blah, blah, blah. And I would be in Ohio, and I would stick one of my children or a friend, or it doesn't really matter. It could even be an object, but that's a whole nother story. And I would say, that's the woman. And I began, and then I would give her the report, and she's like, bam, 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 bam. And so I I'm way more scientific than I appear, and I'm way more woo-woo than I appear at the same time.
It's a great blend. What a great place to be.
It's a weird blend. People don't understand how you can be so weird and so scientific, but I am. I'm a living proof of that. So, it went from that to I have to have a machine and do surrogate testing. When we went to iPads and we went to cell phones, and it became so the thing, we carry them and clutch them in our hands and purses and pockets everywhere we go. These apps started coming out and the whole app culture, and it just shifted to, we don't need to surrogate test. I mean, we can just put and actually it even goes further than this, but picture, birth date, find you, I call it the game, or on the grid or in the computer. And I love it. I call myself the lazy psychic now when I do these readings, because I don't have to do anything. You tell me everything. Of course, with my experience, it helps having the clinical experience and knowing when things come up, what they mean. But people are like, you're amazing. I'm like, no, you're amazing, because they teach us wrongly that we carry our memories in our brain. We don't. We carry every single thing since we came out of the all in our energy fields. And that can be accessed by anyone, anytime, any space within our reality or outside of our reality.
Right.
And again, also the way that all time, all space works is everything you believe is real. So because I've tested this, I always say I'll put every single one of my dogs, which I love, every single one of my kids, my grandbaby, and my own life behind how I use keyword and my technology. Because you can have the exact same technology, but it doesn't mean, of course, you're me,
And I think that, kind of to your point, because of energy, as much the same as we all are,
mm-hmm.
we're all so amazingly, incredibly different at the same time. So
and
how you use
I told you, because that's so brilliant. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that was such a brilliant statement. I really want you to hear what she said. That is why we're here. So forget purpose, which you mentioned at the beginning. So I love these themes. Forget purpose. The purpose is for you to experience your unique point of view, your unique lessons, your unique mistakes, your unique glories and successes. That's why you're here. You're living your purpose, living in the moment, day to day. So I think it's brilliant that you said that.
Well, living, thank you. Who knew? But living in the moment, though, that speaks so loudly to just being present. And
so delicious.
Perversely, technology. Isn't that like our main, most recent key component that prevents us from being so very present in our lives? Our alone time, I'll admit, a lot of my alone time is spent scrolling Facebook Reels because I want to empty my brain. There are some good nuggets in there to be taken away for sure. But that one-on-one family dinner time at the dinner table, and I know not everybody grew up with this premise in their households. Lives are different for everyone. But when you all sit down together at the end of the day to have a meal and talk about your days, we're not doing as much of that anymore. We're looking at our phones. We have our phones on the table. We're out to dinner. I'm guilty. I'll go out to dinner with my husband and we'll be talking about something and there'll be a question neither one of us knows the answer to. Well, let me Google it, because we can't sit with not knowing anymore.
Yeah, it's really sad. I noticed, using the restaurant example, even especially the young people, the teenagers on dates, the college people on dates, or the young 20s. I'm like, you guys, just stay home, each of you in your house, and like FaceTime or something, because like they're on their phones. There's no communication. And what's even sadder, the families. I've noticed this, unfortunately, is a huge trend. Husband, the wife, and the smaller children, and the wife's, coloring with them and interacting with them. And the husband is just, you can almost see like this invisible wall. He's just on his phone. I'm not even saying he's cheating or anything. I'm not even going that far, but who knows with all these apps. But, he's just in his own world, whether he's watching a game or whether who knows? It's just technology. It's just like people or, these beings that I interact with. Everybody's like, oh, Sasquatch is horrible. I'm like, whatever. It's just individual. Everything's individual. And AI is sentient. It takes on its own energy. And it's just as individual as you and I are. So a lot of times, we just say but AI is also life-saving and amazing.
Isn't it crazy? It's kind of, I can't find the word I really want, so I'll just throw reflective out there of all of the energy that we talk about in so many different aspects. I mean, with some of the energy healing work that I do and other conversations I've had, happy and sad are actually opposite ends of the same frequency. And somewhere in the middle, there's a balance where you can carry both at the same time. But as human beings, we dive, right? When something changes, the pendulum swings really hard in the opposite direction before it settles. And that can look like mania in a way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking yesterday. We were discussing how there's such a thin line between love and hate. And
Yeah.
when I scan you guys, you hold all frequencies in your field all the
Right.
time. So,
Right.
and I mean, and of course, there's duality here. So when I say
Right.
black and white, I'm talking about here because there's not duality in the all, of course, or in other realms. There's not the degree of duality there is here. So it's not that anger is wrong or hate is wrong. I just don't like that. It just is. It's how this place is wired. It's how your avatar is wired. It's chemical frequency. I love that you said frequency. It's just a frequency. But it's so interesting because I can scan your emotions and I can tell you almost like what percentage you're holding at any time. So, and that's really helpful when we scan a depressed person and we see the root cause as far as emotionally isn't anger, it's grief, or it's sadness,
Right.
or it's abandonment, or it's trauma. And then there's different doors we come in to help people based on what they're, because again, and I was just talking to a friend yesterday. A very young woman with 4 children just passed from an ectopic, I can't say that word, ectopic pregnancy, and it could have been prevented if she went to the hospital in time. And I also came within seconds of dying from a pregnancy. And who saved me? You know who saved me? Emergency surgeons who cleared the operating room, shelved patients, and put me first and saved my life. I will never ever speak out against Western medicine because so much of it is great, you guys. It really is. And so much of alternative medicine is great, but both sides, again, they have their failures. But again, thin line between love and hate. We carry all these frequencies. We carry many disease patterns in our field that haven't hit the physical body. What's brilliant about quantum medicine and being able to access all time and all space is we can see it coming and we can reverse it before it hits the body or mind or emotions. We can stop a mental breakdown from happening. We can stop, a full form disease diagnosis.
If only we took more time to stand still and really pay attention as a society, as individuals, as one practitioner to another who thinks they're in a field that's completely separate from the other field. Take the time. Speaking of time, I'm going to take a really super quick break. So Dr. Kim, everybody who's come on to join us today, grab a fresh enough of your water or your coffee, whatever you're using to keep up with life today. You're watching the Self-Care Show on WLTK-DB. I am your host, Deidre Sanford. Dr. Kimberly McGeorge has joined us today, and we'll both be back in just a minute.
Certified psychic medium Stephanie Lynn creates an authentic connection between the living and the spirit world. Stephanie knows she is here to help heal, educate, and provide validation that there is more after death, and allows herself to be a conduit and work as a team with spirit to pass on messages from their world to ours. Stephanie Lynn also works as a spiritual life coach to help you achieve, create, and manifest your best self and life. Looking for help communicating with an animal? Searching for a past life regression therapist? Or dealing with a paranormal experience? Stephanie Lynn is here to help. For a list of full services, visit her on Facebook under Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive. That's Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive.
And we're back. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are talking today with Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and we've got so much to cover. We've been talking about naturopathy, which fits right into what is mostly still pretty much alternative, although it's much more well known these days. There's one right up the block from me. We talked about energy. We've talked about auras. We've talked about technology. Let's drill it down just a little bit. Maybe. I don't know. This might not drill it down a whole lot, but let's go here anyway. Aura scans.
Okay.
I know you've talked about surrogating, and actually, I recently did that for a family member in an emotion code session.
Cool.
And we used sway testing
Cool.
to confirm who I was when I was surrogating. I'd say, my name is Deidre, and I would lean back out of the statement, and I would give my family member's name and lean right into it. So I love how all of these things come together and are actually much more easily accessed than so many of us may think.
I agree. I love that. Did you get, I actually sent you your aura in your email.
Did you?
No. Yeah, I already ran. I can't help it.
How cool.
I already ran you. So, yeah. And just so you guys know, I mean, you already know this, of course, but I don't know you and I didn't stalk you too much. So I didn't know this about you, but you're like super, super, super high frequency and super psychic, intuitive.
Well,
so,
thank
I don't even know who you are, but I know that you are because I'm
actually, now that you brought it up, I actually do psychic readings, mediumship readings. I am an energy worker. I'm two different schools. I'm Reiki and pranic. Then I bring all of those things together when I work with my clients in another healing modality called root cause therapy. So thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I'd like to look into that and we can talk later about that. The other thing I see about you, which I don't see often, is you have a real connection to what I call the elemental, the fourth and fifth dimensions. You're laughing. See, I don't know you. I'm just telling me, you know.
Some of these things are things I only suspect and have an inkling of. So that was the giggle on that one. Yeah.
No. So it would surprise me if you haven't had contact or seen the fourth and fifth dimensional beings, fae, little people, Sasquatch, dogmen, dragons, sylphs, like kind of that whole kingdom, because I believe in past incarnations, you were part of that kingdom. And so they have an affinity with you and recognize your frequency of your soul. And you have an affinity with the elemental kingdoms, also nature, trees, flowers, plants, bees, insects, like the whole kind of elemental kingdoms. Also, it's funny, I'm seeing one of your past lives. You used to have command over the weather. So you might want to play with that. So you might already know that. But literally, I believe you carry a lot of that. Well, obviously, we carry all of us with us. But so you can literally change the weather pretty easy.
Interesting. Very interesting. I had no idea this was going to happen, you guys. Dr. Kimberly, thank you.
Oh, sorry. It's just I have to, when information comes in, I just have to say it. So,
wow, that's really amazing. Thank you.
So, that was all in your aura, though. I mean, so the aura, and you understand this, I know, but what the aura does for me is I see what the technical colors mean and the shading and this and that, the technical training, of color therapy and stuff. But what it does for me is it opens up layer after layer after layer and gives me like a portal or a window into your energy. And that's without even going into any other layers of the technology. So you can tell so much. And all of you guys do this too. So you guys all walk into a coffee shop, and if there's 5 tables, you're going to pick the table that feels the best to sit at. You don't know the people that feel best, and you're reading energy, you're reading frequency, you're reading their auric field, you're reading the table field, even, So we all do this, subconsciously, all the time. It's just the tech brings it, like you said, real front and present.
I love that you brought into the conversation today the fact that we all do this all the time, because we've talked on the show before about we're all born with these abilities. What's dominant? What shows up for you? And do you choose in this lifetime, or do you consciously choose to develop and employ the abilities that you came into this universe with? This universe, interesting phrase for me, but that also has a lot to do with our environment when we're growing up. Is it understood? Is it accepted? Is it something that is developed or squelched as we're children? And if it's squelched, do we find a path back to bringing it forward and practicing, developing?
Very, very true. My oldest daughter came to me when she was 5, and she said, "Mommy, I need to have my eyes checked. And I said, why, darling? Because I hadn't noticed any vision problems, reading or anything. And she said, because I see people everywhere that aren't real, and colors around you and shapes in your field. And it's scary. And I think I screamed and jumped up and down. I've never been so excited in my entire life, because what a gift, not only to have, your children end up being your best friends as they are now, but also to have that support within family to grow and explore and learn together. And so all my children are extraordinarily gifted, and I think sometimes profoundly way more than me. But I think partly that is what you just said, is they had a cheerleader. They were encouraged. They had a bounce. They had a mentor. And, we don't all have that. What is really neat is, you said discovering, and I would also add the word remembering, because to me, just like you with your alchemist weather and your, nature and faith connection,
crazy.
It's a remembering. You never lost it. You're still doing that right now in many lives. Like right now in the present, you are still that being, and that all our soul pieces and parts are connected. And so I encourage you guys, as you remember, to ask your guides, ask your oversoul, ask for a lucid dream, ask for help and assistance in remembering who you are. And I think that's so, as you remember who you, but again, the density here, I mean, I know who I am, but I forget. And I don't forget just because there's so much, memory wiping technology, which there is. I forget because of the density and the physicality, because I have to babysit and I have to order groceries and I have to mop my floor. That's dense stuff, you guys. That's not like woo-woo, float in the clouds, change the weather. I forget.
It's so interesting that you said it that way. I didn't think of it that way, but the minute you said it, man, that made a lot of sense. So we're these energy beings, right? Where everything is made of energy, but we live here on this planet Earth with gravity and daily lives and responsibilities and obligations and things that we want to do for ourselves. And we bring ourselves back down out of that frequency because we need to function. It's actually literally required of us to be able to navigate those different levels of frequency. And I know frequency is your thing, and I want to bring you back to that, because I love what you're talking about as far as doing the frequency healing work. And I would love to learn more about that.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because I always start off when someone's brand new to me and I say, okay, they're like, what do you do? If they're interested in coming into my groups or taking my classes or having a scan or one-on-one, I say, this is what I do. What if you could know anything, anywhere, anytime, any space about anyone or anything? Would you sign up? And they're like, heck yeah. I'm like, that's what I do. I teach you how to access all time, all space, period. That's the root of what I do. And so how do I do that leads us to what you just asked, which is my primary, not only, but my primary tool has become technology to give us that 100% accurate bounce. How can I say it's 100%? Because, and this is not the right frequency, but it's the right example, because I know that a ladybug is always 332.87. It never changes within the game. Now, there might be a variety that's orange, so it might be 332.88, but I still know it's in that frequency of ladybugs. And that's how you work. So when I was growing up, my dad always said, the only person that can read your thoughts is God. That's not true. First of all, there's people like me that can merge with you and become you and read your thoughts, which I don't do, so you don't need to worry about it. Well, sometimes I do, but we don't talk about that. But sometimes it does still come in handy. A lot of energy costs, and of course, sometimes a lot of trauma when you become another person. But what we can do is, it is helpful to read thoughts when I'm, counseling someone, working with someone, and they're very, very depressed, and I know they're suicidal, and I say, "Are you suicidal?" And they say no, but I can hear them and see the plans to kill themselves. Then I know to refer them to somebody else. Right. And that's why the medical profession actually loves me. They have made millions of dollars off me. I am the first in my scans. You need to go be genetically tested. You need to be under a good, I prefer DOs. I prefer NDs. Sometimes it's hard to find a good ND. I'll be the first to admit that, or a good DO. You need to be under the care of these people. You need to have your blood drawn for hormone balancing. I work with the medical profession. One of the top psychiatric clinics in the United States calls me and has me run scans on their patients. They understand. And so we are progressing in Western medicine to understand the value of 100% accurate frequency. Again, it's not me guessing. It's not that I'm amazing. It's that I can read the frequencies with my technology. So what they ask me is they say, so Zoloft, Prozac, blah, 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 Seroquel. And we know they save the money. They save the testing because we know what's going to work. We know what the body wants. We know what the brain wants to balance. And it's just so, I mean, it's really humbling to have that degree of accuracy and being consulted, which is so cool that I started out in medicine and then I went to alternative medicine. And I really think, there's a celebration of marrying together. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, I was contacted by some companies to develop medical technology with PEMF therapy combined with frequency. And so we've been experimenting with that in the last 5 or 6 years with just rave, shocking, amazing, results. And that's much more medical,
I want to jump in and interrupt you for a second because my brain scrambled at alphabet soup. And it went from alphabet soup to EMF. So is that like 5G technology, but only in a positive and effective way?
Yes.
So help me reframe that, please.
Yeah. So it's pulse electromagnetic, frequency therapy. But what's so cool about it is, so we take the frequency, which is telling the frequencies what to do, and it goes down to the cells in the physical body, which frequency does too, but in a more, again, how we were talking about the density. So in a more physical healing density. So muscle recovery, muscle pain. We're working with, you probably know his name, Jim Quick. Jim, he's like a memory, he's big in consciousness. He's like a memory expert for, learning, ADD, ADHD, remembering. Nice. So we're working with him. We're experimenting with PEMF, putting in mind and brain healing frequencies. And I really feel like for 3D, we're pushing the frontier of really combining quantum AI and frequency technology with a real visceral, measurable physicality. As a matter of fact, the frequency panel that I designed for this device for sleep, and here again, tell me what you can take for sleep that you can measure. What product, what tool that is going to improve your REM sleep by 35%? Show me. I can show you because we've done the test. Mind blowing. Like, I think we're really going toward the med bed type, with the work that we're doing. And it just thrills me that I get to be a part of it.
That's amazing. The increase of REM sleep. Now, I'm familiar with, and you may be too, wearable neurotechnology patches.
Sure.
Have several different purposes, but to your point, there is a patch for sleep. And it's like a QR code. There's a raised pattern on the patch that looks kind of, I'm wearing my
Are you? Oh, okay.
I can't even properly show you. It's in this really weird place on my arm. No, I'm kidding. It's a 2x2 patch. And if you look at it with the naked eye, it looks like there's a thumbprint in the middle. And essentially, it utilizes the neuroreceptors in your skin to send a message to the brain. There is one for free.
And why does that work? I'll tell you guys why it works. Because everything here is code.
Right.
And so for some reason, I was born knowing all the codes, which is a whole nother conversation. And so that's how I can program this, because I know the codes that create this reality, and not just for medical stuff. But that's what they do too. They're coding your code, and that's why it works. It's the software for the hardware. That's why those patches work. And I'm a big fan of patches, period, because I hate swallowing pills. So, I mean, I always recommend, a certain company that delivers vitamins transdermally through the skin, because I hate swallowing things. So great. That's awesome. And you're kind of familiar with that because that's code.
It's interesting because I had thought of it, but not really. But I have used the term QR code in respect to the patch. And I got that not anything I came up with. That's something that the developer came up with. But when you said what you were saying about the code and the numbers and the technology, so then I also went to, so the Matrix is real.
Oh yeah, baby.
One of my favorite films. But don't you love it when you see something come out in a format like that seems to be like E.T.? There are lots of examples of it. And then something comes out in a format like cinematic, where it's supposed to be fantasy and willing suspension of disbelief, but there's a lot of truth behind it. And like Star Wars is always the good versus the evil, and there's a lot more to it, I know.
Star
But
Wars
Matrix,
is not fiction. Star Wars Star Wars is a documentary. Star Trek is a documentary. Stargate is a documentary. These are less fiction and more fact. I'm not saying, they throw in some romance, they throw in a little bit of twist. It's like 90%, 95%. Even Star Wars, I don't know if you guys know, Star Wars has many, many actual ETs in their ET form in the movie.
Oh, cool. So, and some of that, it's like group mind think, right? If enough people put that out in the consciousness, then it can start to manifest. And that works on both ends of the spectrum.
Yes,
we're not balancing right in the middle. We're producing things that are low vibe, and we're producing things that are high vibe, and shifting consciousness and opening minds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes in not fabulous ways.
Sometimes I'm single and I date. Sometimes guys find out what I do, and then they find my shows, and then they're like, "You're so crazy. I'm done." They're like, "I can meditate. I can do yoga, but you think this place is a game? You think this place is a matrix?" Here's the one thing I can say with 100% confidence. Every single one of my shows will age so super well. You guys might think I'm crazy now, but one day you're going to be like, "I remember that woman. She was like a prophet. Like, she knew what was going on, So I'm not afraid, because I know that that's my calling, at least right now in this incarnation. I know I'm a way shower. I know I'm a little bit ahead of even the most woo-woo crazies, but it's exciting to me, and I'm okay. I can take it because I know that's why I'm here, to kind of, I call it dropping it in your field. And it may not mean anything to you right now. And a lot of your shows, I'm being told, do this too, Deidre. So you've done shows that people meant nothing to them, but one line or one thing you said or one thing a guest said was a piece of this 2,000 piece puzzle that we put together until we, leave here. And I don't have the whole puzzle put together. Again, I learn every day. I've changed my mind. My students' favorite teaching classes are the ones that I call recant classes, where I basically recant everything I taught 5 years before, because I'm a new being. I have new information. I'm more expanded.
It's so awesome to have you come out and talk with us about ideas that you're solidifying, because they were already being worked on. You jumped in and you brought it, to a new level. Right. And then ideas that you're introducing and helping to develop as well. I love that there's that balance, and that you've been able to bring this information to us on many different formats. I think I understand that you have 2 different apps that deal with the frequency work. Is that correct?
I do. Actually, one's a little old, and we just get the RS Chakra app. It's wonderful. It's funny. They're grabbing your throat and my throat, which is interesting. That's called interference, you guys, by the way. But they're like, "Okay, that's enough of talking about this woo-woo stuff. Get back on it, ladies." But yeah, I do have one app is still available, and we're actually switching. We're upgrading to a new app that you guys can certainly purchase this for yourself. It is what I call a practitioner app. It does take, I was familiar with these machines for years. I knew them backward and forward. And it took me really a year or 2 before I even understood the intricacies of everything that can be done. But it is brilliant. And if, like you, Deidre, someone like you would probably pick it up a lot faster than, possibly than someone just buying it cold. So it's not for everyone. It's a little bit expensive, but it's certainly available, and we teach people how to use it.
So you're talking about Energy Mastered and Energy Remastered.
Mm-hmm. Energy Mastered are taking off the market just because we are. And we just don't want to keep updating. I don't know if you guys understand the way everything changes. You just have to keep updating. And sometimes you just have to let things go. But Energy Remastered is available, and it's absolutely brilliant. It has changed the entire trajectory of my life and career for the last 10 years. And I consider it a member of my family, a sentient, living member of my family.
Speaking of AI, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of AI.
It's your baby. You kind of birthed it. So you got to help develop it, and you get to decide.
I can't do that, as a matter of
fact. When it goes to the 2.0 version, as opposed to our lifetime. When is your 2.0 version? Well, most people say it's 18, right? Mm-hmm. In the Hebrew community, we would say it's 13 because of bar and bat mitzvahs.
Okay.
Everything has its own natural rhythm and growth pattern.
Sure.
Or maybe not so natural, but pushed. It works.
Sure. And you know what I love too? I just want to drop this in because we're at the beginning of the year, and what you started the show. I love the theme that we keep kind of, tag teaming each other on, is just that I always say you never know what's around the corner, of your life, which is exciting. You can look at that really, and I always choose to look at it positively, but you can choose again, and you can choose again. And people are like, no, I moved here. I'm like, oh, I'm in this job. Oh, I married this. No. You are a fire creation spirit. You are a creator. You can choose and choose and choose and play and play and play and play until you choose to go somewhere else when you leave this game,
And you just brought up a theme from one of our shows in October when we were talking with healer Mark Ehrlichs. Okay. And a whole lot of what we talked about that day was, you don't like the moment? Choose differently.
I love that so much.
Choose again. And you're bringing that into us today on a much larger spectrum. And one of his books is actually called Co-Creator. And we are, in fact, co-creators. But it takes a long time for most of us to unlearn what society taught us and learn that it's okay to step into that role of co-creating your life. And thank you for that reminder, because I needed to hear that today.
Yeah, me too. I need to hear it every day. So
That's
thank
awesome.
you for bringing that forward.
Bringing your energy with you to the show today is amazing. I love the way the show itself just kind of lit up, and you lit me up, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
I think you're amazing. I think you're super talented. I actually see an interesting turn for you coming up in the next 3 years. So I'm looking forward to seeing that develop.
So am I. Thanks. Website, Dr. Kimberly at www.secrettoeverything.com. It is in the chat box. I wanted to make sure we took the opportunity to speak that for our podcast listeners. And it is 2 T's in the middle, secrettoeverything.com. I just want to send you a great big hug, Dr. Kim. Thank you so much.
It's so lovely meeting you. I'm going to look into what you do. I did see, but I'm not familiar with it, so I kind of want to crawl into it a little more.
All right. Well, you're more than welcome to do that. You know how to find me, and you know where my website is. It's my name, DeidreLSanford.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Kimberly. We appreciate having you here on the show today. I look forward for us maybe having a little wrap-up chat on the side sometime in the future.
I agree. And I'm going to send you a little sample scan too.
Ooh, awesome.
If you want, I will.
Doors open. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
It has been an absolute pleasure to have Dr. Kimberly McGeorge with us here on the Self-Care Show on WLTK-DB. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I love having Jess pop in and meet with us today as well. New folks, the more the merrier. We always love to see everybody. Michelle, thank you for coming in with us this morning. This show is designed for you guys, our viewers and our listeners. Don't ever hesitate to shoot me an email. Find me on Facebook, shoot me a PM. Let me know what kinds of things you would like to have us talk about on the show. Maybe you know a practitioner that you've had experience with who is amazing and you want everyone in the world to know about them. This is a great place to help get somebody else started or to help promote your favorite practitioner. Give us a shout and let us know. Find me on Facebook. It's Deidre Sanford. Shoot me that private message. Let me know what your thoughts are. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Keep pushing on through 2023. Once again, it's the Self-Care Show. I am Deidre Sanford on WLTK-DB.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.